Hey guys, Galaxy Studios here. This challenge has been a long time coming. My Terraria arc, as you know, was kickstarted by PrismaAce, someone I met through Blunder of all people, releasing a video spanning over 2 hours in length. That video detailed his nearly year-long struggle to become one of the very few people to ever beat Calamity Master Death Hardcore. It's my most watched video of 2024 and sparked 3 separate Terraria videos from me around the end of last year. Recently, he did it again, and, well, that sparked my return to the game. This time, as a significantly better player. And with that experience, I decided to do the exact same challenge, albeit on the easier difficulty of Expert Revengeance. I'd still have to deal with the increased enemy and boss stats of Expert Mode, the AI changes introduced by both Expert Mode and Calamity's Revengeance Mode, the mountain of new content comprising both Terraria's 2 splits and an all-new split introduced by Calamity that follows the Moonlord, and do it all without dying a single time. I knew that going in without a plan would be a recipe for disaster. So, in preparation for starting my attempts, I did 3 full runs of the game from start to finish, including the mage run featured in my last video, testing out my best options for each class at every stage of the game. I learned which bosses would be the most problematic, devised strategies to counter them, and planned my route. From there, I jumped right in. Normally, this would be where I go over how my early attempts died. Attempt 1, though, it's something special. As I spawn into my world, I set up my home base and get exploring. Early game is by far the part of hardcore where you're most likely to die, so I'll be zooming out on the important bits here, like this part where attempt 1 almost ends right out of the gate to these 2 robots. At least I got a battery and wolfram knives out of it. They'll be useful to attack from a distance. With the Crimson directly to my left, I instead head right and immediately find the desert oasis. This will be incredible for fishing in a bit, but I don't have bait yet, so I keep going and thankfully find a surface cave right before nightfall. This zombie gets me 1 hit away from death, but I beat it and keep caving, finding my first life crystal pretty quickly and immediately recalling to free up some space in my inventory and crafting wood armor for the first time in my life. Continuing the caving, I burn my first Spelunker potion and get huge value, finding enough lead for the full armor set, which I will keep equipped until I have post-brain gear. Lead armor is buffed in Calamity to give damage reduction, health regeneration, and knockback immunity, making it the best early ore armor set by far. Returning home, I decide to take a pretty big risk and rope into the sky, where I immediately find the Planetoid Lab. The herb eggs I can get there can help me stock up on my Spelunker potion supply. However, while I'm getting bottled water from the closest water source, the desert oasis, I decide to fish, which completely derails my plan of surface caving entirely. Getting the magic conch from an oasis crate gets me 1 step closer to pulling off the most famous progression break in Calamity, but we'll talk about that in a bit. First, heading to the Sulphurous Sea, I've got to free the angler from a crocodile only to feed him to another one to get myself the golden fishing rod, a guaranteed drop if he's killed by that crocodile. With the increased fishing power, I fish long enough to get myself the abyssal amulet, the reaver shark, and all the money I'll ever need. The crates I get in the process also grant me sailfish boots, the tsunami in a bottle, and some more life crystals. Now for why I fished up these items. The Abyssal Amulet adds the Riptide debuff to all your weapons, making it unironically the best offensive accessory available in at least the first half of pre-hardmode. As for the Reaver Shark, it's had its 1.4 nerfs reverted in Calamity. You know what that means? It's time to mine some Hellstone. Actually, before I head to the Underworld, I smash a Crimson Heart since I want the Goblin Tinkerer as soon as possible. Alright, now it's time to mine some Hellstone. With Hellstone bars, I get a full set of Molten Armor and the Volcano. With this gear to protect me, I take my second big risk of the playthrough. I head to the west side of Hell, otherwise known as the Brimstone Crag, the single most dangerous biome I can be in right now. Completely ignoring advice I got from Bone Reaper, I run as fast as I can, not even thinking about fighting the enemies, and make it out with my prize, the Blade Crest Oathsword. Strong, reliable, and unmatched in its ability to take on random enemies, this weapon is going to carry me through the first half of pre-hard mode. There's still some stuff to do before I tackle the first few bosses though. I cleave my way through the goblins, finding the Goblin Tinkerer soon after. After heading around the world to get the accessories I need, including fledgling wings, I make one final pit stop, and it's actually a place I've been before, the Sulphurous Sea. Hiding in a chest under the water is the Rusty Beacon prototype, the best entry I can get for quite a while. And after a close call with a freaking aquatic scourge, I pick it up and reforge everything. I build my arena, set up some buffs, and finally tackle King Slime. After the fight, I finally find the Shimmer, getting some permanent upgrades. From there, it's on to the rest of the early game bosses. My hubris in forgetting to activate my summons and my sentry goes unpunished, and I get my first rage upgrade. Now my next target is quite obvious, the Perforators. The Brain of Cthulhu was buffed to the moon and back in Bountiful Harvest, and I have no interest in taking it on until I'm significantly better prepared. With that said, enjoy the fight. The death of the Perforators caused the aerolite ore found in Sky Islands to become mineable, signaling the second half of pre-hard mode. So, let's go mining! With aerolite, I can finally upgrade my armored aerospec, finishing up with the aerospec headgear. Yep, I'm going rogue. The tracking disc is a weapon I used during my first Calamity playthrough, and with the Bladecrest Oathsword's less than desirable matchup into the 4 upcoming bosses, it was exactly the power boost I needed. If you haven't heard of Calamity's stealth mechanic, using rogue weapons allows the player to build up stealth by not attacking, then perform a stealth strike for increased damage and a secondary effect, with the obvious cost of a much lower fire rate. The tracking disc's normal attack does decent single target damage with excellent homing, while its stealth strike does insane damage against multi-target enemies like all 3 of the major bosses between me and hard mode. With this new level of power, it's time to get some kills. The wall of flesh stands between me and hard mode, but I want to make some preparations before doing the fight. Early hard mode is deadly, and I need everything I can get. Take down Queen Bee for access to flasks, make that 2 Queen Bees, head into the dungeon for the mechanic, the Cobalt Shield in both tables, farm for the Rover Drive and get it pretty quickly, actually do the Old One's army for the War table, build an arena for the hard mode Giant Clam and take out the pre-hard mode one, upgrade my summon sidearm to the Eye of Night, fight Slime God again so my brother can watch, yes this actually happened, upgrade the Codebreaker, bomb out to build a Plantara arena, fight my way through a Blood Moon for the Blood Orbs I want for potion crafting, and line the entire Underworld arena with arena buffs. Now, the Wall of Flesh. The mythical run in a straight line technique worked to perfection here, and I'm into hard mode. Rogue served me well, but it'll be time to return to melee soon. For now, I use the Demon Heart and farm enough Souls of Light to craft the Ancient Masters map of the Lost King's great ancestors, revealing the map instantly and letting me know in no uncertain terms that my Tundra got hit again, and twice to boot. A problem for later, since it's time to break out another progression skip, this one also requiring fishing. Calamity's early hard mode rework locks the second and third tiers of hard mode ores behind the first and second mechanical boss respectively. However, in an exploit that's being patched next update, fishing for crates can still provide you with a higher tier hard mode ores, and that's exactly what I do to immediately get myself a full adamantite melee set and finally retire the tracking disc in favor of the breaker blade. Yeah, this is confirmed to be an exploit, but in my eyes, hardcore is exactly the time to use every resource you have to the fullest. Except the coin gun. That's just lame and Prisma will admit it. After farming Souls of Light and smashing altars for Souls of Night, which they drop now instead of spawning ores, I craft an accessory that's going to stay equipped until its upgrade becomes available after the Devourer of Gods. The Amalgamated Brain allows me to dodge attacks. Unlike dodges in vanilla, this dodge is guaranteed, with a cooldown depending on how much damage was dodged and maxing at 90 seconds. On top of this, you get a free 10% damage boost at all times and Cerebral Mind Trick after a dodge. I can't really go without this accessory in hard mode, and I'd recommend anyone watching this video to give it a try in their own runs. Now, for the rest of the early hard mode prep, because there's a lot. I get the Drunk Princess to move in and purchase her candles. These were reworked recently to be mutually exclusive, and I'm not gonna lie, I never switched off of the defensive one for the entire run. I go to the sky to hunt down wyverns for Souls of Flight, picking up the materials to craft flasks of crumbling in the process. I will not stop using this flask until the end of my run, it's just too good to pass up. I then farm pixie dust until I'm able to craft fairy wings, by far the best set I have access to right now. That 60 max health is amazing, and I'll be sad to see it go next update. Speaking of fairies, fairy boots were also buffed in Calamity and require Souls of Light as a result, boosting my speed, defense, and life regen more than Terra Spark ever could. I finish off the Ankh Shield, whose components are entirely craftable in Calamity. Y'all know what it does, no need for me to elaborate. My next stop is the Sunken Sea, where my hard mode Giant Clam Arena pays off and I get what I'm after, mollusk husks. Mollusk shell leggings are an excellent piece of armor, but I ultimately decide adamantite set bonus is too good to pass up. What I do get out of it though is the Deep Diver, a fully fledged ram dash available before any hard mode boss has been defeated. To pair with it, I head to the Brimstone Crag, this time perfectly willing and eager to tangle with the enemy spawning there. With the Essence of Havoc they drop, the Slag Splitter Pauldron is in my hands, empowering my dashes and letting them apply Armor Crunch, significantly increasing the damage my attacks will do. This will be useful for the next boss I'm fighting, and will never be used again after that. I visit the Underground Tundra and kill an Ice Clasper to upgrade my summon sidearm to the Ancient Ice Chunk. Then I go back to the Brimstone Crag, mine some Infernal Suevite, and use it to craft the Brimstone Sword, my primary weapon for my first hard mode boss. The reason I'm doing all of this preparation is because one mechanical boss in particular was a real problem for me in testing. I want to be at my best when I fight it, and that constitutes wiping out two of Calamity's early hard mode bosses, starting with Cryogen. With Cryogen down and my insanely long early hard mode monologue finally over, cryonic ore spawns in the underground tundra. Calamity's early hard mode rework would normally prevent me from mining it until 2 mechanical bosses are defeated, but thanks to fishing, I have a titanium pickaxe right now. After picking up a bunch, I craft a few things. First up is the Ornate Shield, a significantly better ram dash than the Deep Diver whose upgrades are used from this point to the very end of the game. Next are the Flare Frost Blade and Darklight Greatsword, 2 excellent melee weapons that are both a bit too powerful for this stage of the game. Finally, I craft the Daedalus armor set, only to decide that Adamantite's still a bit better. The most significant reward I get from beating Cryogen, though, is actually from its treasure bag. The Avalanche is a weapon that you've seen if you've watched any true melee challenge video. And yes, it's going to do exactly what you've seen it do. First though, I make my way to the underground jungle. Calamity lets Life Fruit spawn in early hard mode, so I hunt down 26. 20 to max out my health, 1 for the Aegis Fruit, and the remaining 5 for the Sanguini Tangerini, a max health upgrade available once the mechanical bosses have been defeated. With that, having the Avalanche in my hands means it's time for a worm to get shredded. And no, I'm not talking about the Destroyer. Let's get a revenge on the Aquatic Scourge for almost killing me pre-boss. Easy fight. The funny thing about it though is that the only reason I did it is to upgrade my sidearms. The Rusty Beacon prototype was amazing and shot well above its tier, but it's literally available pre-boss without fishing, and the Orthocera shell is a much needed upgrade. The Deep Sea Staff also dethrones the Ancient Ice Chunk as my best summon, and that will remain the case until Plantara has been defeated. Of course, assuming I make it there, since the next boss fight's the one I've been worried about, Skeletron Prime. I have not found a way to consistently dodge the homing skulls in its second phase, and often found myself comboed to death during testing. That led to one solution: make him weaker. The flip side of Calamity's early hard mode rework is that to compensate for the player having worse gear for the first 2 mechanical bosses, the first and second mechs you fight have lowered stats. However, despite having gear that's tiered for the 3rd mechanical boss, I haven't fought a single one. I'm going to be facing the hardest mech boss at its lowest point. I'll be doing the mechs in order from hardest to easiest to take full advantage of the rework. I've been preparing myself for this moment for the entirety of hard mode so far. With that said, I proudly present to you, Gaming. With the mechs down, I have some upgrading to do. Terraspark boots can be upgraded to Angel Treads now, but I honestly completely forgot and kept using Fairy boots for a while. Oh well, at least they give better bulk. What I do craft is Hallowed Armor, which doesn't stay equipped for long as I mine some Chlorophyte and immediately get myself a melee set of Chlorophyte armor. I also craft the previously mentioned Sanguini Tangerine for 25 extra max health. For my primary weapon against Plantara, I go with the tried and true Calamity Classic, the Biome Blade. Out of my options, its reliable homing projectile from the Forest Attunement seemed like the easiest weapon for me to use. I craft the Mechanical Glove to boost my power, pick up the Vengeful Sun Staff and Cryogenic Staff as improvements to my sidearms, and challenge Plantara. Enjoy the fight. My narration's been pretty matter-of-fact ever since I beat the Aquatic Scourge, and that's because I basically had guaranteed wins on every boss I fought. With the exception of the Calamitous clone though, that's no longer the case. I'm 5 bosses away from breaking the split wide open, but to get there, I'm gonna have to get through the hardest part of the game so far. First things first, it's time to gear up. The Deep Sea Staff served me well, but something better is available now. I kill Queen Slime for the Blade Staff, which combines with the previously mentioned Eye of Night and Living Shards dropped by Plantara to make the Plantation Staff. This will serve as my summon sidearm until Golem has been defeated. Next, I go underground to mine the perennial ore that generated after Plantara was defeated. The armor set crafted from it, Reaver Armor, actually reduces my damage, but makes me an absolute tank in return. This set is obviously a top tier pick for hardcore and will stay equipped permanently until I have post-Golem gear. I make a pit stop at the dungeon, preparing the Forsaken Archive Arena for a certain boss I hope I'll get to fight and getting some ectoplasm in the process. Before using it though, I check in on the Calamitous clone and ask how she's doing. Upon finding out she's on life support and hooked up to this eye thing, I decide to do the right thing and put her out of her misery. For legal reasons, this is a joke. Since I'm running melee, there wasn't any reason to fight her before Plantara, but now with Ashes of Calamity and Ectoplasm, Asgard's Valor is finally in my hands, compressing 2 accessories I was already using into one with 0 drawbacks. I also craft the Deadshot Brooch for later. Yep, I'm switching to Ranger soon. The Solar Eclipse is next on the chopping block, solely because I'm still using pre-Plantara weapons and my arsenal needed an upgrade. I pick up the Butcher's Chainsaw and a Broken Hero Sword, which I used to make the Ark of the Ancients. In hindsight, Terrablade would have been better, but eh. The Death Sickle is also handy, as I'll hopefully upgrade it later. Next up is the Pumpkin Moon, which literally only gives me black fairy dust right now. I've been using Fairy Wings since the start of hard mode, so I'm due for an upgrade, and Tattered Fairy Wings boost damage and crit chance in Calamity, so it's a win-win. Now there are 2 ways I could go to improve my loadout from here. I could stick with melee and challenge the next bosses immediately. However, I decide that melee doesn't have enough firepower at the moment and that I'm switching to Ranger as soon as possible. And so, I take my biggest risk of the run so far and summon the Frost Moon. I get through the early waves without much trouble and the Ice Queen decides to show up. The first one drops the North Pole and at least that's a weapon I can use right now. The second one drops nothing, the third one drops a worse North Pole, but the fourth one drops the weapon I'm looking for, the Snowman Cannon. If you've ever used this weapon in vanilla, you know how good it is. Despite not having access to mini-nukes right now, Rocket 3s do good enough group and single target damage, and the Snowman Cannon's insane firepower, splash damage, and homing will hopefully be enough to get me through the next 4 bosses, because I won't be changing my primary weapon until I'm through all 4. With that said, my next target is Astrum Aureus, a fight made significantly worse by the fact that I'm using Reaver Armor. I'm using offensive accessories, stacking the Deadshot Brooch with a Ranger emblem, but this fight still takes forever, which is a problem when Aureus kinda hits like a truck. I never got close to dying, but the fight took much longer than I would have wanted. With Aureus down though, I get my second Adrenaline upgrade and an upgrade to my Sentry sidearm. The Hive Pod is easily the best Sentry in hard mode, and with it in my hands, I set my sights on the next boss standing between me and breaking the split wide open, Ravager. If you've seen Prisma's recent video, you'll know that Ravager is much easier than Golem in Master Death mode. For my testing though, Ravager is actually still easier than Golem in Expert Revengeance. In fact, I barely had to try. My Snowman Cannon tore through his body parts like nothing, then once the head was detached, I burst it down as quickly as possible. From there, Ravager has 1 attack. Ravager goes down, and after I get enough treasure bags, and upgrade my rage again, I get enough Scoria bars from Fleshy Geodes to craft the Seismic Handpick. From there, it's time to mine away. The Seismic Handpick is strong enough to mine Scoria ore in the Abyss, so I'm no longer reliant on killing Ravager to get the components for Life Alloy. an important Calamity material that's used for a ton of stuff. For now though, I only use it for the Miracle Fruit, Calamity's second max health buff. Ravager also drops the Blood Pact, an excellent defensive accessory that boosts my max health and healing potion effectiveness by 25% each, and to complement it, I craft the Living Dew to make myself even tankier. To round out my new loadout, I craft the Ranger set of Hydrothermic armor, made with Scoria bars. It's the best offensive set of armor I have access to, which will be good for burst damage against the next two bosses. I also craft the Hadal Mantle as my new pair of wings, sacrificing a bit of power for better mobility, which is far more important both against the next boss and especially the one after that. With that said, it's time to kill some more bosses. First up is Golem, and if you're curious why I'm building these walls in the Golem arena, they're to trap his fireballs. I'm fighting Golem with post-Golem gear, but this fight is annoying enough with enough projectile spam that I'm not taking any chances. I start the fight with Golem using a fully offensive build and burst down the hands and head as quickly as possible. However, once the head's taken down and I take a few too many hits for comfort, I immediately switch to defensive accessories and Reaver armor and just play it slow. After a few more seconds, Golem's down and I'm one boss away from breaking the split wide open. That boss though, is the hardest boss of the playthrough so far, and one that I am very much looking forward to fighting, the Plaguebringer Goliath. I farmed for Plague Cell canisters in the jungle for a bit and used them to craft the Wither Blossom Staff, which is both my current best summon sidearm and one that will be incredibly important in a bit. I also craft the Abomination, the Plaguebringer Goliath summon item. For this fight, I decided to start with Hydrothermic armor for the burst damage, but use my tank accessories instead of the offensive ones for the entire fight, since this bee has a tendency to combo players to death. Of course, I'm keeping Reaver armor in reserve in case she gets me a bit too close to death, but I don't expect her to. This is definitely the hardest boss so far in this run. I've prepared everything I can, but ultimately, this fight comes down to whether I can step up under pressure. My biggest strength as a hardcore player is that I will always have the best gear possible at every stage of the game, but that doesn't matter here. This fight is all about skill and execution, and as a relative newcomer to Terraria, let alone Calamity, I had serious nerves leading up to the moment I used the Abomination. But you didn't think a little bug was going to stop me, did ya? The Snowman Cannon is an excellent weapon, but something much better was just unlocked, and it's something I've used before. But I did not know this thing's full potential until I wasn't self-restricted to a single class. By combining the Uzi, the Hellstorm crafted from Scoria bars, the Black Hawk remote dropped by the Wall of Flesh, and infected armor plating dropped by the Plaguebringer Goliath, I get the weapon that's going to break this split wide open. The Plague-Tainted SMG. This gun's right-click attack shoots a swarm of homing drones. The interesting part, and what I didn't realize during my class roulette playthrough, is that when the target is inflicted with a plague debuff, those drones have a 75% flat critical hit rate. Now, given that the Wither Blossom staff I already have does indeed inflict the plague debuff, would you like to guess how far the Plague-Tainted SMG is going to take me? So, yeah, it took me to Moonlord. Given that this combo's gotten some recent exposure to the public courtesy of Yardis and especially Prisma, I won't be surprised if a good chunk of you guessed right. But yeah, if Prisma was able to beat Moonlord on Master Death without even upgrading from Hydrothermic, of course I can take him down in Expert Revengeance using the Lunac Core set. Moonlord marks the end of Ranger's time in the spotlight. It's probably the only class that could have so thoroughly thrashed the second half of hard mode like this, and I'm grateful for that, but it's time to return to melee for the time being. At least once I have Luminite. Also, I'd like to apologize for the frame drops that have been present throughout this video, and will continue to be present. I did everything I could to reduce lag in game, but there was no way for me to know where the frame drops were going to occur before the recording was complete, and I can only do it once since I'm in hardcore. Now there's a lot of important stuff to deal with before I plunge into post Moonlord. Given that Ranger got me here and probably won't be used for the rest of the game, I decided to choose the Vortex pickaxe as my Luminite pickaxe, and immediately go to space to mine more Luminite and Exodium from the sky. I craft a full set of Solar Flare armor and the matching wings. As for my other accessories, Asgard's Valor and the Amalgamated Brain stay equipped. I upgraded my Living Dew into the Ambrosial Ampoule sometime during the montage, and it along with the Blood Pact stay on as my tank accessories. For some more offensive ones, I finally dropped the Ancient Treads I crafted like 3 tiers ago in favor of the Celestial Shell, and filled the 7th slot I got from the Moonlord Celestial Onion with the Fire Gauntlet. Finally, my weapons. Moonlord dropped the Lunar Portal Staff, the sentry I already wanted to use. Luminite and the Pillar Fragments are used to upgrade the Starlight into the Elemental Ship, a great melee weapon with good firepower at a distance and decent homing. Finally, the Wither Blossom Staff served me excellently, but there's an upgrade. And without any more critical hit mechanics, the Flowers of Mortality are the obvious choice for my summon sidearm. I should also probably mention the Eye of Magnus at this point. It's a sidearm that I crafted during the montage that reduces bosses' damage reduction. There's no reason for me not to keep this on my hotbar for the rest of the run. Now, with my gear upgraded, I plunge into post Moonlord by challenging the Dragon Folly. It's an easy enough fight that I could have probably done it before taking Moonlord down, but it was definitely too risky and I didn't need the rewards at all. Plague Tainted SMG was just that good. Regardless, here's the fight. I take Dragon Folly down, use the final Rage upgrade, and start my preparations for the Profaned Guardians. I go to the Underworld to start farming. Wait, Galaxy? What are you doing? Galaxy? What the hell are you doing? Okay, so, I just skipped Providence and all 3 Sentinels. With Poltergeist down, I don't actually have access to new armor or accessories, with the exception of the Omega Blue set and the Reaper Tooth necklace. But I'm not going into the Abyss with solar armor. I doubt I'm doing it with Blood Flare, let alone solar. What I do have access to, though, are new weapons. Namely, the Terror Blade. Or more accurately, the Terror Blade is the weapon I'm going to use to get the weapon I want. When I was playing this stage of the game, I kinda forgot that the weapon I want to use to backwards cleave through Providence has Twisting Nether in its recipe. So without thinking, I craft the Root of Cause, yes it has a recipe, go to the Underworld again, and challenge Cygnus. The fight was going really well. Until this happened. Okay, what hit me? That could have killed me. What exactly just hit me? Okay, so reviewing the footage, and the answer to that question is a lot. A lot hit me. No more projectiles were coming at me, but it took until writing the script for me to realize that I was literally 2 hits, or maybe 1, away from death. A bit too close for comfort there. In hindsight, Galileo Gladius would have done the trick, but I kinda forgot it existed. Regardless, with Cygnus down, I can craft Death's Ascension, a ridiculously easy-to-use melee weapon whose right-click attack has no issue whatsoever cleaving through the Profaned Guardians, who actually dropped the War Banner of the Sun. I had no intentions of farming for it, but it's a pleasant surprise and immediately replaces my Affliction that I had replaced the Celestial Shell with. Providence doesn't fare much better. It's a shame because I love the fight, as you've seen, and I'd have loved to make it dramatic, but this is hardcore. This is where I do what's best for this run's chances of success, and I ultimately judged that early Poltergeist was slightly easier than on-tier Providence. And now, there's nothing left between me and the most iconic run ender in Calamity Hardcore. The Devourer of Gods is the next boss, and there's nothing I can do about it. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I'd make it this far into the challenge, on my literal first attempt. Before I even think about challenging the Devourer though, I need to gear up, since although the weapon I plan to use against the Devourer is already in my storage system, I still have pre-Providence armor and gear. I start by opening Ravager treasure bags that I've saved, getting Bloodstone from them now that I've beaten Providence. Next, I head to the underground jungle for the Eulabloom ore that Providence's defeat triggered the spawning of. With Eulabloom bars, I craft the Elderberry, the 3rd Calamity max health upgrade. At 575 base HP, I'm now only 1 upgrade away from the absolute maximum. Next, it was time to get my armor in order. The Blood Flare set is my obvious choice here, having the best longevity out of any set available at this point of progression, and some great damage to boot. The final piece I craft is the headpiece, which decides my class, and I choose to stick with melee. I previously called the Darkspark the best weapon in the entire game against the Devourer of Gods, at least that's tiered for pre-Devourer. But, and this is a big but, I think I might have found something even better. Well, I didn't find it. Shoutouts to Prisma for suggesting it during my testing and Bone Reaper for elaborating. Before that though, I kill Providence again, this time in the Underworld for the Elysian Aegis. And now, I open my storage system and take out the Banshee Hook. You will see the destruction this weapon is going to unleash. The Cosmic Worm normally requires all 3 Sentinels to be defeated. I have no interest in challenging Ceaseless Void at the moment, even 1 tier up, but thankfully there's an alternate recipe. Unfortunately, I don't have enough lunar fragments, so I just kill Astrum Deus again and then craft the Cosmic Worm. I have 5 of the 7 accessories I plan to use equipped already. I have the Flesh Totem in my storage, and the Charm of Myths is easily craftable, so after I reforge every accessory I have to Lucky, my build is complete. Taking Bone Reaper's advice, I decided to go for a full tank build to maximize the amount of hits I can take from the Devourer's projectiles. After the required Wings, Dash, and Dodge, I have the Blood Pact for the health boost, the Ambrosial Ampoule for how amazing it is at keeping me alive, the Charm of Myths for the reduced healing cooldowns, and the Flesh Totem, since if I get hit by the head, I don't want to immediately die, especially since I've abandoned warding for this fight. The last piece of the puzzle is the Brimrose Mount, a tried and tested way to semi-consistently dodge the Devourer's laser walls, which I predict will be the hardest part of the fight. This is it. Going into this challenge, this fight right here is the one I was most scared of out of all 44 bosses in this game. There's no easy way to progression skip past it, like with Golem. There's no miracle weapon that's going to trivialize the fight, like with Moonlord. It's not optional, like Ceaseless Void or the Old Duke. And much like the Plaguebringer Goliath, the result of this fight, for the most part, will depend on how well I play it. I've done all I can. There's nothing left for me to do but enter the arena and use the Cosmic Worm. Enjoy the uncut fight, including all of the audio. Take it away, Live Galaxy. Alright, this is it. If I'm dying, we're doing it in broad daylight. Let the massacre begin. How am I doing this with no practice? This will be the end for today for sure, but man, why am I doing this with no practice? It's okay, I've got a tank build. I can afford to take it easy in phase 1. Still damageless. Cosmic Guardian is woken. Okay. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go! Okay. First melt successful. First bullet hell dodged. Darkspark probably would have been better with this kind of a build, but... I think I have him. I think I have him! I think I have him! The Devourer of Gods has been defeated! I'd like to apologize to everyone I've lied to and said that I lost this fight. To be perfectly honest, my reason for doing this stems from one thing. There are two Calamity hardcore videos that come to mind when thinking about this decision. The first by Skeletron, the second by Phantasmon Infernum. Video length is usually a good metric to judge when a hardcore attempt is going to die. And so, I wanted to end my video with the Devourer of Gods, and for once, subvert expectations. With that said, The fact that I won this fight means that this attempt isn't over yet. And well, although the video is over, this is not the only video I'm going to be making on Attempt 1. The finale will be premiering live on YouTube, noon after this video's release. I'll see you then. Bye guys.